20 Some of my other funny stories. 20.1 In my new school, once in my new class, as I had made no friends in the city, well, I had some pals, but they were not friends nearly as close as I had in Vincenti. I was having trouble getting used to my new class. Despite this, there were some funny episodes with my new pals I had, like this one below. Right before the social science lesson, I made a bet with the young ones. There were the two handsome friends joined at the hip, sharing one appellation for two, that they were not to say a word within the whole lesson, no matter if they were addressed to, asked questions or something. The wager was a bottle of lemonade. The social science teacher was a vehemently fanatical Marxist-Leninist propagandist, Mrs. Blinkova, whose name, unfortunately, I have forgotten. Her fanaticism had suppressed us all. Nobody ever wanted to play around with her, we simply were scared. So the young ones taking up that bet were like playing the Russian roulette game, no less. And here we go, the lesson begins. And the teacher calls to the blackboard the one of the young ones. And the class held its breath, all were aware on the bet taken. The young one is standing at the blackboard all silent. Mrs. Blinkova, what's the matter? How's an assignment of yours? Ready. He is shaking his head off as expressively as he possibly could, trying to say, no. Mrs. Blinkova, why not? Had no time or something. The problem was the young one was ready and his assignment was all prepared, and he loved the history and social sciences. After a pause, he shrugged, meaning, I don't know. Mrs. Blinkova looked at him dismayed. Do you have anything say today? Silence again. No chance. Maybe for about 10 minutes lasted such a dialogue and, enraged, the teacher demanded the school diary. The young one, so sad, for a suspiciously long time rummaged in his sports bag that the class had already figured. He must have left the diary home. But how could this be said? The young one silently turned the open bag around in Blinkova's direction, showing her there's no diary inside. He has left his diary. A girl came to his aid, unable to stand all this. Can't he say that? Snapped back Mrs. Blinkova. Finally, the young one got his F right in the class journal, meaning there was no way to get it off the record from then on. The class was just about to recover its breath as the teacher leaned over the class journal and called, the other of the young ones. The second young one stood at the blackboard with his head down, trying hard not burst out laughing. This one was lucky, he didn't his diary with him along. The act drop is slowly going down. They both won the bottle of their lemonade hard way. 20.2 In the Army. 20.2.1 Episode 1 I was on guard duty patrolling the military installations with a loaded carbine and pushing the buttons on the post's en route so the officer of the day in a watchhouse control room could see me moving. It was one of the dog days in summer, but I, being full of fuck, kept sentry when all of a sudden I was desperate for the restroom. I just, gotta go. I mean, I just was really desperate. The instruction said in such a situation I should call the watchhouse for relief, but it would take, I figured, 10 minutes at best for him to get there. No way shall he be on time. What will be, will be. And off I went straight to a shithouse protruding alone by a paved area between protective aircraft shelters. So I walked briskly, almost running, when in 5 steps away of that shitter I suddenly stopped, petrified with horror. A huge, 1.5 meters long snake was crawling under the shitter's door. How long had already crawled in I would never know. So colorful and as fat, as my hand. Another 1.5 hours, just exactly until my relief of the guard came to take over. Not a second earlier, I was patrolling the territory, not deviating an inch from the route, holding it all the way along. And never had I go to these bog houses. Ever. 20.2.2 Episode 2 There were a lot of crazies like me in the Army, especially in our Lorryborn section. We had already served for the 2nd year now, and the service was no longer a burden to us, and there was a little time for us to fool around a little bit. At a smoke break, 10 minutes an hour to which we all were entitled to, it was sacred to a soldier, a Private Razanov, a regiment bus driver whose major responsibility was to take the officers' wives to work and their kids to school in the city and back, went to a shithouse, here we go again, in the lorry fleet territory to take a dump. Sergey, that was his name, was the most well-fed one of us and a good-natured as well. That's where I, a well-known prankster, come in. How could I miss a chance to make fun of a situation like this? I took up a lying nearby boulder of half of my head size and, with the others giggling at me, unwinding with a grace of a putter and throwing it at the lavatory's doors with Sergey right behind it. He was shitting anyway, so it would only serve him good. Everybody was laughing now. What a cut-up man was I. When a boulder flew and, bang, broke a fucking hole right in the middle of the fucking door and a silence had prevailed. Fuck my duck. I grabbed my head, really frightened for what might have happened to Sergey, and carefully walked over to the lav. My God. I was sure he'd be dead now. I almost was there, about to open the door as it sharply swung open and, with that boulder in his hands, furious Sergey rushed out straight towards me. I haven't been running that fast since I was a young soldier. I kept running, looking behind at him, wondering if he ever gets tired. But he, despite his complexion of a sumo wrestler, didn't seem to even think of giving up on me. And all those who observed caught the hell as well. His sense of humor had always failed on him, I'd say. 21 My daughter's cat Jenny. My daughter wanted a kitten for her birthday, which incidentally happened on March 822, as a gift. A real kitten, not a toy, and a calico one too. She was to turn 8. I went to a university then and I was on my end of semester exams. On March 8th we have our day off, so I was going home. But before it I went to check all the pet shops for a calico kitten. There are a lot of tricolor cats when you don't need them, but, according to Murphy's Law, you sure won't find any when you need one. But I found what I needed in a very first shop I got into. There was a litter of month-old kittens. All were black and white except one of them, which was a calico my daughter wanted. It was black and white as well, but with some extra red spots on them too. By the way, all the tricolored cats are female. As a former amateur geneticist, I am telling you. These kittens were being given away for free. Well, I brought a gift for my daughter's birthday. Exactly the way she wanted, and she was very happy about that, and it was a 4-hour ride on a bus, so to keep the baby cat calm I gave it a few drops of beer and it went asleep. Sorry about that. So we got us a kitten who still lives with my daughter for more than 18 years now. No any other pets, including that my brother's evil dog Jim, ever lived that long with us. We, on my submission, baptized it as Jenny. Why Jenny? When I was at school, I read a story in a science magazine, a story about a boy in London who had turned into a cat and became friends with a homeless female cat, Jenny. I enjoyed this story very much. It was surprising though that it was printed in such a serious magazine. So we named Jenny after that fairytale female cat Jenny. With Jenny, I revised a lot of things with regards to cats. I mean, I always loved cats, and dogs as well. I loved dogs, and wolves for that matter, for their ability to be team workers, for their dedication to each other, and the cats, for their skills, for being ninja of wildlife. Cats are the most efficient killing machine. And they are just beautiful. Once on my way to a local convenience store, I saw this, which illustrates both dogs and cats here. A dog pack was passing me by, led by a husky dog with a collar on it. There were 2 dogs with a collar on them in this 6-dog pack. Suddenly, they all came to life by something across the road. There was something not too big behind the fence, where pigeons are normally fed, eating something. I thought that was a trespassing dog now in trouble. It turned out to be a calico cat. Dogs surrounded her. They are all females, remember. Well, the poor thing was now in trouble, unless it has prepared an escape route. I observed, if things get really bad for the 22, and this is our International Women's Day holiday in this country, if you do not know cat, I would intervene, but, as far as I know, Cats, they are not stupid and they never go out to an open area unless they have a plan B for situations like this. They are innate strategists with the planning firmware hardwired into them. Their sizes oblige them to be this way if they want to survive, yet on average they barely make it to their 5 years. That's the price they pay for their freedom. The cat naturally arched at them first, then jumped out of the dog's deadly circle and ran, passing by a tree. I hoped she knew what she was doing. The husky dog almost caught it, and the cat, like a naturally born ninja, made a fantastic somersault and, while turning around on the fly, gave a dog a good slash in its face with all her four, and ran under a nearby building's balcony. Dogs almost caught her. I was worried if they cornered the cat down there. Then it was in real trouble if they did. There turned out to be a pipe sticking out of a wall from the basement, big enough for the cat to jump into. I knew it. The dogs were standing under the balcony and whining. It was that close. And this pack, luckily for a cat, obviously never hunted together. They were lousy team workers. Don't get me wrong, I love dogs as well, but I was happy for the cat I never knew. Yes, I always loved them. But I always thought about cats that they were primarily tied to places they lived in and only then to the people or their fellow cats they lived with. That's probably right too, but what I saw was going on between Anna and Jenny was real friendship I didn't believe in before, and I saw Jenny's willingness to protect Anna. When Anna was a little girl and would get rapped on the knuckles for being bad, what was happening often to her, and on Anya's crying, Jenny would immediately show up and start licking her like she would do it to a kitten, and always would get between us and Anya, making sure that no one would hurt her, and she showed a couple of times what Jenny was capable of, and I'll write about it later, that I personally had no doubt about it. She would protect Anna all right if she would have to. And we had lost Jenny twice. The first time we lost it when it still was a kitten and Anya took it to my wife's workplace, the Countryside Sporting Complex. That's where Jenny got lost for the first time. They came back without her. We did not even get upset much. In my childhood, my pets were constantly disappearing before they even grew up. However, on the same day, we were notified that the kitten was found. It was summertime and little Jenny stayed there to live. She was good there. The base was located by a river in the woods along nearby cottages. They said that Jenny had settled down perfectly well there. She started hunting mice, and once caught a green woodpecker there. It was taken back home late in the fall. For the second time, Jenny was gone in the same place when she was a 2-year young female cat we all loved. Again, my daughter went with her mom and took Jenny along. At this time, the cat was harnessed and on the leash and they walked around a base. A chainsaw motor was unexpectedly cranked up inside a cottage courtyard they were passing by, which scared the shit out of Jenny and she dizzied her way out of the harness, broke free and ran aimlessly. For the rest of the day, poor Anya and Mom unsuccessfully searched for Jenny. Anya went back in tears and her mom unsuccessfully tried to calm her down. They, the conspirators, never told me about Jenny's loss. They only told me about it when Jenny was found again. She was back in the base a week later. Not just one but with a big male cat with whom she regularly disappeared. They only showed up to eat. They said Jenny lost some weight. She must be having a stormy love affair. Her first and, apparently, the last one. Again, most of the summertime she spent in the base. That summer with my family I went to Sochi on my vacation and then I came back to work when my family still were on vacation with their relatives. I took Jenny back as my daughter required. We all suspected that Jenny would soon give kittens. Jenny was pregnant all right and lost some weight too. And she looked a bit wilder than normal. Now, at the sight of the pigeons on the balcony, she always hid and stalked them very professionally. Well, the balcony was glazed, and all its windows I prudently kept closed. Apparently, Jenny had a good life outside. Now Jenny constantly was hiding somewhere at home so that it cannot be found. She could hide, for example, inside the chiffonier linen shelves. Probably she felt the approach and was looking for a secluded den. Though I was waiting for Jenny's parturition from day to day and even read something on that, still all this occurred unexpectedly and I was not ready, of course. Okay. Here I come home from work and what I see was Jenny on a sofa with two, all black and white, kittens, just like those from a litter in that pet store aquarium I picked Jenny from. I immediately saw that they all were dead. With the umbilical cord still not gnawed through, with the afterbirth heme not even broken. Poor things must have died of suffocation. Oh, you fool Jenny cat. I always have been surrounded by stupid ones, both humans and animals. You have damn foolishly ditched kittens. I took my wife's nail scissors, quickly disinfected them with my toilet water and cut the dead kitten's umbilical cord and put them in a bucket to bury them later that night behind the house when another one shows up, crawling out from the coffee table. Alive. And the calico one just like Jenny herself. Well, that means it was the first one. Must have born, fallen down the couch, crawled around. How long have you, the poor thing, been crawling around on the floor? Well, at least we've got someone alive. So, we had deaths rate of 66%. Too bad. And here we go again. Jenny went into another labor. Jenny laid back on her back. Stress began to choke her, she started to pant with her tongue out. I had to do whatever it took to calm her down. I started to stroke her head. When the fetus came along and Jenny seemed to start doing things right, tried to eat the afterbirth, but, again, it did not work out with her. Damn. She was going to kill this one too. I cut the umbilical cord with the scissors I had now. It was good I had read a magazine, tried to break the afterbirth, fuck no. It was damn strong, I notched it with scissors and only then I was able to break the afterbirth. Now I know, if I, the fool, had prepared for this, who knew that Jenny was such a stupid a cat, I would have kept a fountain syringe or something close by so I could suck out all the liquid and mucus from the kitten's mouth, the black and white one again, by the way. And then every second counted now, there was no time to look for a syringe, every moment was critical that the kitten squeaked to breathe. I cleaned the kitten's mouth out of mucus with my finger, then turned it upside down and began to shake the liquid off its mouth. Come on. It was silent. No. I was fucking losing it. Please. When I finally gave up and I was about to put it in a bucket to its already dead litter, as it weakly squeaked. Yes. Can you believe it? Man. You have no idea how glad I was for this microscopic creature. I saved it, after all. Oh God. I fucking did it. I was crying like a kid. Thank God, nobody was home to see me crying. Had I come a bit earlier from my work and I could have saved a. I put this kitten, still wet, along with its calico sister to Jenny, who still did not think straight and didn't seem to have any idea what she should do with the kittens. However, Jenny slowly began to come to life, started cleaning herself up. I took a deep breath of relief myself. So we had the 2 of the 4 survived, not bad. However, I was not sure for a black and white one yet. On the 3rd day after the birth, Jenny hid her kittens so good that I did not even try to find them. I knew, it was useless. I will know when the time will come. And I thoroughly washed the couch out all the tragic birth traces Jenny had brought. The 2 of them just born, I put an audio cassette next to them for scaling the sizes. A week later I found out where Jenny hid her kittens. She had found a quiet place among blankets in the drawer under the bed in Anna's room. I said Anna about the kittens on the phone, said nothing about the dead though, didn't want to upset the kid. To their arrival, the kittens' eyes opened, and after a while, they began to crawl out of their lie. They were getting more mobile and agile every day. I couldn't get easily off watching them playing. Since childhood, I always loved to watch the kittens playing. I was having incredibly positive feedback doing that. At such moments you having particularly acute manifestations of life in all its colors. Sometimes Jenny, being a young cat herself, joined her kittens in their games. Anya was probably having one of the happiest periods of her life. She now had Jenny and her kittens as well. Kittens, however, were growing fast and started to go to a litter tray and eat the normal cat food with their mother's bowl. I was sorry, but they had to leave us sooner or later. It was amazing how quickly people responded to our local newspaper ad on handing out our kittens. The next day, a woman with a girl of Anya's age came by and the girl immediately picked up this black and white one we all particularly loved. That lovely little male cat was smaller than its calico sister, no less agile though, with bigger forehead and eyes that made him look even cuter. So they took it away. Anya personally gave this kitten to a girl but was very upset about it. She was even more upset when people came for the second one a week later. She also personally gave it away silently, crying and stroking kitten's head goodbye. No more kittens. Zero, zip, nothing. Anya said back then. And we never had them ever since. Separation was too dramatic to her. Jenny, however, took the separation surprisingly well. Never mewed nor looked for them. Not that her kittens greatly exasperated her, but she was clearly happy with the peace that Jenny finally got again. We still had about a month of people calling us for kittens. In the city, with the improvement of living standards, people began to have increasing pets demands. Jenny is an amazing cat. For example, it was somewhat surprising for me to know how well concealed the aggression was in our gentle and very homely cat. Once Jenny was feeling unwell. It wasn't clear what was it, but, judging by Jenny's sharp cries, there was some spasm of pains attacking her. It was clear that a veterinarian should see her. My daughter took her time off from her high school and myself from my work. Just to hedge up my daughter in case something goes wrong. Well, it did, but our first visit went well. Jenny obviously didn't like it when they took some blood sample for a lab test. She growled menacingly, but it was fast and all over now. Then the veterinary gave us a call and said that for further diagnosis it was necessary to bring the cat for another blood test, and I went with my daughter again, and rightly so, as it had turned out. Now Jenny was determined to protect herself against the vets when they approached her. She jumped off Anna's hands, huddled in a corner, and with a wild roar got prepared to attack anyone who'd make a move to her. Including Anna. Anna stood closest to Jenny, and Jenny, baring her teeth furiously and hellishly shrieking, was ready to jump on her. It was scary. Vets stopped dead outright there. This, they said, had never seen before. I grabbed a large heavy towel from veterinarians, threw it on Jenny and quickly wrapped it around her, and holding her wrapped in the towel, I took her away and brought her back home. In the towel, Jenny quickly calmed down. We unwrapped Jenny back home and she, as if nothing had happened, was gently purring again, affectionate as usual, just like Steven Spielberg's Gremlins mutated back from being monsters back to gentle creatures. All Jenny's pains were immediately gone and she never had them ever since. It must be the stress that had knocked them out. Or, I don't know, if she had them she must have cracked them hard not to be taken to the vets again, although, as far as I know, the cats, unlike dogs, are not capable of playing the fox, or, maybe, I just do not know them good enough yet. There was yet another case when Jenny had me surprised as well. Well, what the hell was I thinking? And I thought I had a good understanding of animals. Anyway, when I was on my way out to my business in the morning, a smoky-colored kitten drew my attention in the stairway. If that kitten still will be there when I am back, I thought to myself, I will feed it. When I returned, the kitten was there all right. Moreover, it quickly followed me and ran into my apartment. Well, it's okay, I thought, Jenny should take it easy while I'll be feeding it. She had her own kittens once. I should have thought better, although the kitten looked about 2 months old. It's not necessarily it will arouse a maternity instinct in our cat. Thank God I wasn't crazy enough to feed the kitten from Jenny's bowl, and that allowed the kitten to buy some time to eat. The kitten yummily ate a good piece of sausage and cat food I had dumped on a paper on the floor. I just for a second had left them in the kitchen. I don't know what had triggered Jenny to snap, but now they both were in a WC room, screaming and turning everything upside down around them, and Jenny tearing apart the kitten. I was trying to rescue the kitten and Jenny furiously attacked my hands, and now she was tearing it apart. I tried to shake her off, but Jenny wouldn't let my hand go and kept holding onto it with her fangs and tearing it with all her claws, all the three of us roaring and splattering my blood and, probably the little ones, shit all over the floor and walls. Somehow, I managed to scatter them apart. I had to separate them into different rooms before Jenny kills it. To do so I had to find the kitten before Jenny does. Jenny was set to kill the poor thing. Look what she had done to my hand. I sure would have to put some stitches in my wounds. And where the hell is that damn kitten? It must have been wounded too. I quickly grabbed a mop in the pantry. And just in time. Jenny found it. I chucked Jenny aside with my mop like a fucking sphere to my daughter's bedroom, and before I shut the door, Jenny the Fury one was faster, she attacked me again. Finally, I confined my daughter's witch in the bedroom and grabbed the kitten. I was sure that the kitten, shocked, would fight me back too, and I only had one functioning hand. But the poor thing must have figured that I was its only hope. In the stairway I examined it. It was wounded all right, but wounds were not fatal. I brought out some more food and the kitten immediately started eating. That was a very good sign. It lived. I put a towel around my still heavily bleeding hand, which was swelling fast, and started cleaning my apartment with my good hand, and Jenny kept growling and hissing at me whenever I moved and passed her by, cautiously keeping a safe distance from her. Fuck, she was scary. I was really worried about her. What if it had somehow damaged her brain and she no longer would a normal Jenny? What the hell shall I tell my daughter? It was like in a horrible hangover nightmare. She had shown that she was going to die hard to protect herself and her territory from intruders, whatever they were, vets or some little ones. All day long Jenny kept yelling, growling and hissing at me. She had cracked up all right. My daughter came back from school, took her up to her room and kept her there till the next morning. I was worried for my daughter. What if she attacked her? My daughter said she would be fine. Annie always had her ways with animals. Next morning Jenny seemed to be totally recovered from that mess. Even sucked up a bit, rubbing against my legs as she always does when begging for something particularly tasty on the table when my wife is cooking, such as some trout fillet or fresh meat. Now we're cool again. But perhaps I will no longer dare to play with her the way I used to. And 2 days later I stroked her. And my wounded hand started healing up now. No stitches. It turned out all right. My daughter is now studying at a university in another city, and Jenny lives with her. I took Jenny to her myself. That's the kind of my family and other animals I've got. 22 How I began to compose my music. I have perfect ears. And a good voice too. And I am a lousy singer. Just not good at controlling my voice. It wasn't fair. Was it? That I got from my father. No, he wasn't to blame. Just my genes lottery. My mom was, in fact, a good singer. Actually, I had noticed that all on my mother's side were very good at that. When I was 10, I approached a man who for a fee was giving accordion lessons. He was moonlighting in Vincenti on his weekends, and he was much better at training than that local lisping accordion player who worked in a country club and who never taught how to read music, just played a melody and you were to repeat him. This one, however, had a proper methodology and he was a good teacher. His name was Mitroshkin 23 Alexander Nikolaevich. So he had enrolled me, gave me some basic music notes instructions and gave me my first homework to learn them for my first music lesson. I was to pay him 10 rubles a month, big money in 1975. It was okay to my mom. My father, however, was not that straightforward. A monthly fee for the lessons looked too high to him, but he was okay too. Within a few days, they bought me a gorgeous accordion. Sure, they wanted me to learn to play. My pop himself learned to play a single row accordion and became really good at that, and he apparently wanted to see himself in me going up to a new level. I started very well. I was so good that my Troshkin had me to go to his class in a musical school he was working in a nearby town. Even though he was no longer making any extra money on me. It was more important to him that a gifted boy like me should be given a chance to have a proper music education rather than some money to be made on. Well, as good I was doing in my first 2 years, I turned bad by the time I finished that school. I barely passed my final exams. I wasn't properly prepared for them. But Alexander Nikolaevich fiercely defended me, even though I was a major embarrassment to him, as he told me later. That was least he had expected of me. I really lost interest in this kind of music, and in my accordion as well. In a way it was my father's fault. It was him forcing me to play the accordion every day for an hour at least, the perfect way to kill any motivation, the way I see it. I never forced my daughter into anything if I wanted her to do something. There is a lot of ways to have things done nicely. In the beginning, I was on my own playing my accordion days in and days out without any reminder. Anyway, I never touched the accordion since I finished school, up until I was drafted. I only started playing again for my own pleasure after the army. I began to compose my own music, writing down the notes and playing them on my accordion. Then I left for the north, where I had my left hand fatally injured at work, and for 2 years I couldn't work because of my disability. Among other things, I had to give up my music. Not for good, as it had turned out. My surgeon doctor had honestly warned me I was never to become any kind of a music virtuoso. My hand injury was too bad. Well, it has never been. My 23 he is still alive and in great shape too. 35 years later my mom and me met him in the street and he recognized me. We had a good talk with him. Profession anyway. Just my passion. Neither was I looking to become the one. Well, maybe I was. As a child in the very early stage of my music interest. In my 4th grade, our homeroom teacher once asked us who wanted to be what when grown up. I said I wanted to be a composer. Jura, my best friend at the time, laughed at that. By the way, he also went to the music school. And the teacher straightened him out saying, "Well, it's not funny to me." And then she with a grin looked at a boy seating right behind Jura, who, embarrassed, looked down under his table. "But what, Sergei Shkirkin wants to become the Soviet army officer? That's what sounds funny to me." I never wanted to get involved in any musical busyness. But back in the year 2000, I came across a free program which I still use for composing my music. What I liked most in it was its very convenient way of putting down the notes. And for arrangements and mixing down I used different programs. First I used the Cakewalk Sonar X3 producer program for it, then I switched to Logic Pro, the advanced version of GarageBand. For music creation from scratch, I still use the same small free program that I found in the, now distant, year 2000. I never used a musical keyboard. Remember my hand? I write down the notes and then have them converted into MIDI format and run on my computer. If I like it, I leave it and mix it down. That's the way I work. I'll hardly earn anything on my music, but my music, will never disappear thanks to the internet. I'll see to it. But if, by any chance, it hits something, well, that's what, in fact, this chapter is written for, for the world to know where it all came from. That's it. 23 My daughter. Well, there had to be at least one reward for me for all the uselessness that mostly surrounded me in my life, for the fact that I had lived my life not the way I wished. For the fact that I married against my wishes. And I have it. Yes, this is my daughter. And I, by the way, have never said to her that I loved her. But does it really matter if she already knew that? Do you always say to a friend of yours I love you? Well, unless you're an American, of course. Do you see what I mean? I wasn't her father in the ordinary meaning. I never asked her how she was doing at school, never trained her as a good father should do, and so on. For me all these things were nothing more than some sorts of mayhem, sadism I would say. That's what the sergeants in the Soviet army sometimes did to their poor soldiers, train them for their own good, as they would say. I preferred being her friend instead. They all saw that she was a beautiful baby. I mean, the human brain is designed the way that any person views its kids, parents, houses, dogs, etc., as the best of the kind. That's it. For me, she was the best and most beautiful anyway. Although I am, nevertheless, a self-critical person and capable of seeing my own and my loved one's flaws, and I saw that it wasn't just me, she really was beautiful. I got used to it. It wasn't of anything special to me, that wasn't it I loved her for. But the people I even didn't know, constantly said to me that she was some real baby doll. And when my daughter was 4 years old, she finally asked me once in Cyprus, "Daddy, am I really that beautiful?" "Sure, you are, my bird. You are the most beautiful and smart girl in the world. And always been." And she had that special feature I thought kids never had. I mean, my parents had real problems with us, me and my younger sis, whenever they took us to the town. Whenever either of us saw toys, we would immediately start begging our parents to buy them. What a spaz we would have on them for that. And my daughter never, and I mean, never, did this to us. Another thing was that I, whenever possible, tried to see she wasn't in want of anything, but still, she never demanded us to buy anything. Quite the contrary. I would ask her in a mall what she would like me to buy her. She would say it could wait or it was too expensive to anything I would point. I hate that word, expensive. That's this word my father would always turn me down with. My daughter has grown up and never wasted her money I would give her. I made sure though that she always had them. And yet she has some weaknesses. They are neither fatal nor obvious to me. I even tend to view them as a continuation of her merits. She learned to read when she was 5. She learned, but never grew to love it. Around the same age as hers, I realized that she would never become a straight A student. And I turned out to be right. I mean, she wasn't a lab-break one either. Somewhere in between, I would say. She managed to finish school fairly well, but that I think was more to her mother than to herself. We paid a hell of a lot of money for those tutors we hired for our daughter. Because of this, she went to a good university. For the university we also hired tutors. Mathematics is not her strongest point, and that she got from me, but the good point is that she is a very stubborn person. And much stronger than me in that. In the field she studies there is no way you can get around without mathematics. It's automation she is dealing with, very serious busyness. And with a very high dropout rate in her department too. So I worried for her. We hired a good tutor who had hardwired this integral calculus into my daughter's mind so deep that she even fell in love with it. Now she's gotten so good with her math that with little effort she can even do some mental integral calculation if she had to. I have noticed such a phenomenon with dogs long before my daughter. The dogs, such Caucasian Shepherd or a Rottweiler, that are, well, kind of a hard trainable ones, but if they learn something they do it for good, not like that clever poodles or German Shepherds which are quick to grasp, but quickly forget either. If you take any breaks with them you'd have to keep them on toes. That's not the case with these ones. Can't help remembering some dog's trainer story I read once on how she had a really hard time having a Central Asian Shepherd dog fetch for her things she was throwing. These kinds of dogs are not designed to be a retriever. Anyway, since she had that dog do it for her, there was no stopping after that. It was bringing anything it could reach to. It would carry bags for you, deliver the papers around the neighborhood, and do whatever to please you. And my daughter, she is like these kinds of dogs. Maybe she is not the brightest girl in the world, but I still love her. She is the only I got anyway. Well, that's it actually about her. 24 Miscellaneous 24.1.1 A coffee break. Thought being close to the agnostic by my belief, I still have no answers to the following questions. Why all the elementary particles, such as electrons, quarks, etc., in the universe, which are known to have appeared during the Big Bang, are so identical to each other? It is known that there are no identical snowflakes, sands, or grasses in the world, but nothing like that in the elementary particles world. They are just digital copies of each other. Why? I will never understand the quantum physics, and I sure like some of its implications, like multiverse interpretation. Why, for example, the gravitational constant is that what it is? It's known that had that constant been just a little bit more above the current parameters, and the stars would never have been formed up, they all would have collapsed into black holes instead. Had it been a little bit less, and super big stars would only have been formed up, and they would have been unstable. In any case, the emergence of life would have been impossible under such conditions. And why the gravitational constant is constant? No chaotic fluctuations of g in time and space. Why? Why the second law of thermodynamics does not apply to these constants and generally to the laws of physics? Why they do not change, transform, or evolve? Does it mean that was intended that way? Have all of these properties been designed? I have asked these questions in disputes with militant materialists in the days when it was still dangerous to discuss anything like that. When we studied the basics of programming at the university, we were facing situations when the slightest mistakes in code writing occurred, just a missing comma, and a program wouldn't run at all. That reminds me, just a little change in gravitational constant, and the universe wouldn't run. These very questions and considerations keep me from uncompromising materialism. The way, as far as I knew him, was my father. He wasn't an agnostic, he was a die-hard atheist. I firmly and uncompromisingly believe in Darwin's evolutionary theory, but I don't understand how a protein molecule could have formed, even during the lifetime of our universe. But if the universe is, in fact, infinite multiverse, and they constantly multiply the infinite variations of their parent universes, what, by the way, is implied from quantum mechanics, then why not having the life come along in one of them? 25 On Crimea. Back in 2014, it's for the second time I find myself in overwhelming minority here in Russia. For the first time, it was over the war with Georgia. I was strictly against it. I seemed to be the only one in favor of it. Ocean. I got my ass kicked for it, all right. This country's people in the patriotic haze again. They think that the war is like yet another Olympics to be watched on TV. That's not them, nor their children to fight and get killed there. Those will stay home. So they think. What could I say to this? We have no resources to be at war. Neither economic nor demographic. And, trite but true, Ukraine is not Georgia. The same US to save face, not in front of its voters. No, why the fuck would they care about some Ukraine they never knew it existed, but in front the countries just had gotten their nuclear weapon or very close to it, who very closely watch what's really behind its territorial integrity guarantee in exchange to give up their nuclear weapons developing program, will help Ukraine, and we are looking to have a hostile and very efficient army at our borders. And highly motivated to fight with us for Crimea or something. I am not going to waste my time on other global implication for Russia for this adventure. In the future, it may kiss goodbye to its cherished customs union. I don't believe in direct global sanctions. But curtailing cooperation in all areas with us looks pretty real to me. There is going to be coordinated pressure on Russia, the results of which we are going to see in the coming years. If the West will somehow manage to put the oil prices down, for them now it's easier than ever, they now have political motivations to do so, to always existed economic ones, that will ruin the thoroughly corrupt Russian economy. Maybe this will end the existence of Russia as we know it. Think about it. Is that what you want? I don't. The sane part of our society understands it, but there are not enough of them, and they are intimidated to get things changed. And for the rest, the war is yet another Olympics. Music to their ears. Russia is rising from its knees. But sobering will come faster than they think. Russia, You have gone crazy, alright?